According to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "A rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. He summoned him and said, 'What is this I hear about you? Prepare a full account for your stewardship, because you can no longer be my steward.' The steward said to himself, 'What shall I do now that my master has taken the position of steward away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, so that when I am removed from the stewardship, they may welcome me into their homes.' He called in his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 measures of olive oil.' He said to him, 'Here's a promissory note. Sit down and quickly write one for 50. Then to another the steward said, 'And you, how much do you owe?' He replied, 100 cores of wheat.' The steward said to him, 'Here's a promissory note. Write one for 80. And the master commended that dishonest steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. I tell you, make friends for yourselves with dishonest wealth, so that when it fails, you will be welcomed into the eternal dwellings. The person who is trustworthy in very small matters is also trustworthy in great ones. And the person who is dishonest in very small matters is also dishonest in great ones. If therefore you are not trustworthy with dishonest wealth, who would trust you with what is wealth? If you are not trustworthy with what belongs to another, who will give you what is yours? No servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Through the words of the gospel, may our sins be wiped away.
I'm not sure if you've heard, but this past Wednesday, no winner was announced for the Powerball drawing. And now the jackpot stands at $99 million. I've personally never bought a lottery ticket because I'm afraid of winning it. Now, obviously, there's only an impossible chance that I would actually win, but even the thought of winning that much money is a terrifying possibility. I mean, can you imagine a priest winning $99 million? That would be awesome. I'm just kidding. But honestly, I think winning the lottery for me would be like Smeagol finding the One Ring from The Lord of the Rings. If you recall what happened to Smeagol, he began as a peace-loving hobbit, but once he discovered the One Ring, he became consumed by it, obsessed with it, until it transformed him into Gollum, an ugly creature who had lost all resemblance of who he once was, tortured and enslaved by his obsession to reclaim the ring that he had lost to Bilbo Baggins. For each of us, that ring which consumes Smeagol can symbolize many things. It can often be that thing which we find ourselves pursuing at all cost, that thing that we expend the most energy on. And why do we do that? Because we believe that acquiring it will make us happy. Yet in chasing after it, we often move further away from true happiness as we lose ourselves in the process, our innocence and our freedom. We can become so wrapped up in our own desires, our own goals, our own success, that there's no room to consider for the needs of others. Or more importantly, no room or no space for God's grace. We may even begin to see others, like Gollum did, as obstacles in the way of my precious goals. I wonder if this was not the attitude that governed the life of the dishonest steward in our gospel today. Although we do not know exactly how he squandered his master's property, we do get a glimpse into his character when his master hints at removing him from his position. Rather than showing any sign of remorse, he immediately thinks of himself and how to secure his own future. Let us again listen to his thoughts expressed in the gospel. It says, "What shall I do now that my master is taking the position of steward away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, so that when I am removed from the stewardship, they may welcome me into their homes." Now, two things stand out here about the steward. First, again, when confronted with his failure, he feels no remorse. He is solely motivated by self-preservation, thinking only of how to maintain his lifestyle and status. Second, when he does think of others, even his consideration of others is entirely self-serving. He uses them to secure his own future. He calls all those who owe debt to his master, and rather than enhancing his master's property as a faithful steward would, he reduces their debt in an attempt to win their favor. This is why he is called the dishonest steward. In short, the steward demonstrates the following characteristic. Just like Smeagol, the dishonest steward pursues his own goals relentlessly at all cost. So that when the master discovered this, how did he react? If you were the master, how would you have reacted? Punishment would have been the logical choice, but that is not how the story goes. In fact, in a plot twist, upon discovering the dealings of the dishonest steward, it says that the master commended that dishonest steward for acting prudently. Here we are reminded that Jesus often told parables like the one that we heard in our gospel today, with a plot twist as a teaching strategy. By introducing unexpected or absurd details into stories based on familiar everyday life, he compelled his listener to engage more deeply with his message and consider spiritual truths from a new perspective. Now, to be clear, the lesson here is not about endorsing dishonesty, but rather the steward is commended for practicing practical wisdom, that is, for using what was entrusted to him in a decisive and effective way to secure his future, pursuing one's goal at all cost. In fact, the children of this world, that is, people who are without faith, often show great determination and strategy to secure their wealth, comfort, and success, not unlike the dishonest steward. But here's a deeper spiritual lesson, that we, the children of light, those who believe and follow Jesus, are also called to pursue with that same single-minded dedication, not for worldly gain, but for our place in heaven. And here's where we differ from the children of this world. The place where the worldly pursuit often takes place is in the visible realm. It's all about drawing attention to myself, my effort, my achievements. However, for us, the children of light, our pursuit of holiness often takes place in small, hidden, and obscure places where we are called to acts of faithfulness. We are called to do the little things that may go unnoticed by others, but are seen and valued by God. These are the moments that sanctify us, the acts that build holiness and makes us faithful stewards of God's grace. And the key to this path is humility. Again, if we are too full of ourselves, there is no space in us for God's grace to be at work. This is why God sometimes likes to serve us a humble pill, a little reminder from God to help us make space for Him and to help us see reality as is, not as we wish it to be. As they say, what really destroys us is the constant picture in our mind on how things ought to be. To remedy this, we must obediently accept our humble pill, to accept reality as is, not as we wish it to be. And for us to be grounded in reality, in the truth of God, we must learn to let go, to surrender, and to shift our focus away from worldly gain towards spiritual growth. Humility opens the door for us to empty ourselves and make room for what truly matters. And often, what truly matters is not where we spend most of our energy. Recently at a retreat, I heard something that really struck me. In contrast to the frantic pace of our society, the speaker reminded us that as believers, we are not called to live at a frantic pace, but at a heavenly pace. And she posed the question, what would it look like to move throughout our day at a heavenly pace? Living at a heavenly pace means rejecting the constant need to compete, to dominate, and to accumulate things at all cost. Instead, we need to adopt a different mode of operation. It's the mode of operation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to follow God's will at all cost, seeking His kingdom and becoming a vehicle of His mercy. It means prioritizing the invisible over the visible, the eternal over the temporary, and the spiritual over the worldly. We are called to be faithful stewards, placing all that God has entrusted to us at the service of His kingdom. The treasures that endure are not the things that the world chases, but the gifts of holiness, mercy, and love. Gifts that flow from God and when shared lead us closer to heaven. So I leave you with this question. What is your one ring? What is it that captures your attention, shapes your choices, and consumes your energy? And how might you place it back into God's hands so that your heart is free for God? Jesus Himself makes the choice clear. He says, you cannot serve both God and mammon. We cannot let our lives be consumed by pursuit of wealth, power, or status, while also trying to serve the Lord. Only one master can claim our heart. May we then choose God, pursuing His kingdom with steadfast faith, walking humbly at a heavenly pace, and leaving room in our lives for grace and for love of neighbor. Then, as children of light, we will discover the treasures that endure forever. Let us then profess our faith